What's up, everybody? It's been about a week or so since we've made any kind of posts. Just wanted to take a little break, think about some things, and kind of go from there. Today, I wanted to talk about the series finale of The Big Bang Theory. First, I'm sad. It sucks. I like the show. They're still ratings are still big. I think it's the highest rated show on that network, at least. And so they kind of went out on top, kind of like Seinfeld. If you remember back, I was just watching this. That's why I'm remembering. Seinfeld had an interview with Larry King before the finale was about to come out, and Larry King asked him, well, what's with the cancellation, blah, blah, blah. And it turned out that Jerry and the crew had decided to just stop. They wanted to go pursue other things, and they stopped while they were the #1 rated show on TV, period. So he was kind of offended by the notion that anybody would say they were canceled when they just stopped doing it. But Big Bang Theory, I believe it was 12 seasons, if I remember right. This series finale, which was an hour long, so it was technically 2 episodes. I think they technically labeled them 2 episodes. It was sad. Like I said, it was kind of the end of an era, and so if you've been watching the last few episodes, you know that Amy and Sheldon were vying for a Nobel Prize in physics. And this whole episode, while being about that, was not about that. Spoilers, at the beginning they win the Nobel Prize in physics, which is something that Sheldon's been wanting his whole life. If you watch Young Sheldon, the season finale of that was also about Nobel Prizes, and so it kind of informed what you would see on The Big Bang Theory. And so after they win, there's reporters at their house. When they walk into the building, there's people clapping. There's reporters trying to interview them at the school. There's a lot of stuff going on, and this episode is more about that change in their life rather than them actually winning the Nobel Prize. Them winning the Nobel Prize is through the whole episode, but this is more about change. It's more about Amy changing and Sheldon changing, and Leonard and Penny, and there's a bunch of things going on that have nothing to do directly or with the Nobel Prize, but they happen around the Nobel Prize. Sheldon decides that after all this time, he's not sure that he's happy with winning because everything has changed in his life because of the reporters, the fame, and all that stuff, and he doesn't like it until he goes out drinking with Penny, and she convinces him that the only constant in life is that things will change. He grew as a character and as a person through this whole series, and of which she reminds him, and so he's kind of feels better about himself at that point, because she's right. The only thing you can really count on is that things are going to be different day to day. And Amy, apparently some of the reporters had taken some pictures, and she didn't like the way she looked in them. She said she looked frumpy, and she said she looked, this or that. And so Raj takes her out and convinces her to do something for herself. She's always placated Sheldon because she doesn't want him to be upset, because he's kind of a more hands-on person, and so she hasn't really taken care of herself as much as she wanted to. And so she's gone out and she got herself a haircut. She changed the color of her hair a little bit. She went out and got some different clothes, and she looked very, very businessy. She looked very classy, I think is what Raj says, classic lines or something like that. But she changed her whole demeanor, which kind of was the end of the line for Sheldon before he went drinking and had his talk with Penny. But this was a growth for Amy as well, because she realized that she was relying too much on other people and trying to help Sheldon and appease him rather than trying to help herself, which was cool. I mean, it was a cool thing to see her kind of grow again as a person as well, and that's kind of the growth of those two characters, and them winning the prize, which they didn't get the medal for yet, is kind of where the first episode ends, the first part of the two-parter. And I called it. I told my wife, Alicia, a week or two ago that I said, I wonder if they'll ever get the elevator fixed before the series finale. And they got it fixed in the series finale. So that was another thing that Sheldon was whining about, that it had been, constantly broken for this whole time. And now it's fixed, so it was another thing that was changing with everything else. But they finally fixed the elevator, and so they were going up and down the elevator a few times. That was really cool. But you also learned, this was big news because Penny didn't want this, but you also learned that at the beginning, now she does, you learned that, you didn't learn it in this episode, never mind. So it ends with Sheldon coming to terms with the change in his life. Sheldon coming to terms with the fact that Amy is she is definitely her own person, and she should take care of herself, and he shouldn't worry that, about the small things, about her changing her hair or whatever. And so it kind of ends there with that part of them growing a little bit more resolved. And it's to be continued, but obviously it goes right into the next episode. Which is at the beginning, it's their travel to Sweden to watch Sheldon take this prize. And so everybody's getting ready, everything's going on, and we figure out that at the very beginning of this episode, Amy is getting fitted for a dress that she's going to wear on stage. We figure out that Penny had to let out her dress. And nobody knows yet, but the reason is because she's pregnant. So that was a big thing, because Penny didn't want to have kids. She wanted kids, and then she didn't want kids, and then they ended up with getting pregnant. From the night that she had went out with, I think this was 5 months, 2 or 3 months later, actually, now that I remember. And so the night that she had convinced Sheldon everything was okay as far as him being able to grow and watch everything change around him, they got pregnant that night, and so they haven't told anybody. So everything's getting ready. They're on the airplane to Sweden, and Penny has thrown up about 4 or 5 times, and Sheldon thinks that she's sick, that she's got some kind of, disease, that she's patient zero and she's going to get everybody infected, and he's not going to be able to get his prize, his Nobel Prize, his medal. And so it finally boils down to Penny just telling Sheldon with Leonard that they're pregnant. And Sheldon kind of brushes it off and says, I can't catch that, and he goes to a seat, which kind of fuels the fire for the rest of the episode, because Leonard believes that after everything that they've been through, for him to not even really congratulate them and feel like some kind of happiness emotion was kind of a slight at them. And so there's this big blowout between Leonard, Penny, and Sheldon about them just not going to the ceremony. Then they're just not going to go watch, because why should they placate him and go have him accept this award while he doesn't give a crap about them, is their feeling. And so they're gonna go home, they're gonna fly home. At the same time as that's going on, Howard and Bernadette have left their kid with Stuart and his girlfriend to take care of the 2 kids while they're off in Sweden. They have a Skype chat with them, and we come to find out that I think it's Hallie. She fell down the stairs and she broke one of her teeth and all that kind of stuff. And so Howard and Bernadette are also thinking about leaving, and they go to Leonard's room to let them know what's going on. Sheldon's there, obviously, and Leonard tells Sheldon that they're going to go home because he's not appreciative of them. And Howard tells Sheldon that he also is thinking about going because of the kids, and Sheldon says something mean to him as well, and so that's when Howard and Bernadette decide they are going to go home. So everybody departs. Sheldon goes back to his room, and he tells Amy, like, how dare they? They're being selfish, blah, blah, blah. And Amy gets mad at Sheldon about how, he's only ever thought of himself, and that everybody has to wear kid gloves around him, and that he's not appreciative of anything, and that people just tolerate him because they know that's how he is. They can't be themselves around him because they know he'll get upset, and they know that they have to ensure that, he is taken care of before everybody else. And Sheldon asks her if that's how she feels. And she's honest with him, and she says sometimes, and we kind of part ways there as well. And so that's where the scene ends, with Sheldon thinking to himself. You can see the concerned look in his face and thinking to himself about what the fuck's going on at this point. And so we end the episode with Sheldon and Amy on stage accepting the award. Amy's acceptance speech is really small. She thanks her mom, her dad, her friends, things like that, and then she introduces Sheldon to give this what was described in the episode as a 90-minute speech about all the people that told him he couldn't do it, and all the people that kind of stood in his way, and how smart he was, and that kind of stuff. And so you can still, while Amy's giving her speech, you can still see him on the side not really paying attention, thinking and wondering, and everything's changing in his brain, and it's you can tell that something kind of sad, happy is about to happen. So he gets on stage and he says, I was planning on giving this really long speech about everything and about the people who said I couldn't be here, and it was a selfish thing. And so he said he'd put it aside, and he looks at his friends, and after thinking for this whole time while they were in their room up to this moment, because everybody has decided that they're going to stay. No matter how much of a pain in the ass Sheldon is to them, it's kind of who he is, and it's not even on purpose. It's just something that he doesn't realize. And so they decide, Howard, Penny, Bernadette, and Leonard all decide they're going to stay, and they're going to watch. And they're going to be good friends, because they can't, if they leave, are they as bad as what they think he is? And so they wanted to support him. And so he, after seeing them in the audience cheering for him, I think his heart changed, and he puts aside this long speech he was going to give, and he says, and he thanks, his mom, his dad, his brother, his sister, and he thanks his friends. He gives this really big, heartfelt speech about them, and he has them stand up, and he addresses each one by their title, Dr. Kuthapali, and he addresses Howard as astronaut Howard Wolowitz, which is a really touching scene, and he says something to the effect that they were there despite him. Sometimes they were there always cheering him on and supporting him and being there for him, and he kind of didn't realize it in the moment, and it was a sad moment, because this is the end. This is Sheldon's big turning point as a character, which you've seen small things change here and there, and he has changed a lot since the show first started. But this was a real big turning point of him realizing that he can be difficult to deal with and hard on his friends. And so this was him showing his friends the respect they deserved on the biggest stage that he could, when it should have been about him. It could have been all about him, but he made it, and he chose to take that time to make it about his friends. And that's really cool. You know what I mean? It was really awesome to hear him talk from the heart about Howard and Leonard and Penny and all of these people that have helped shape who the guy is that's standing up there on the stage, getting this Nobel Prize in physics. So it was a really strong end, in my opinion, to the series. You know, was it the most exciting 2 episodes in the world? Probably not, but you got a lot of loose ends that were tied up, as far as you know, Leonard and Penny having a baby, as far as Sheldon getting his Nobel Prize. There was Sheldon repairing his friendships. I mean, there was a lot to go, and that's the end scene really made this a good series finale, in my opinion. I enjoyed it. It's sad. It sucks that it's going to be gone. Young Sheldon is still on the air, I think, for another at least 2 seasons, so that's really cool. I enjoy that show as well. But hopefully you've seen it. I know some people don't like it. It is what it is. I loved The Big Bang Theory. I'm sure we'll revisit it in the future. But you can always catch us at totlb.com, Thinking Outside the Long Box, Facebook.com/Thinking Outside the Long Box, Twitter and Instagram at Outside Long Box. You can shoot me an email at outsidethelongbox@gmail.com, or you can leave us a voicemail, 970-573-6148. Let us know what you think about The Big Bang Theory, about young Sheldon, about whatever. All right, if you got an opinion, leave it here. Send us an email, leave us a voicemail, whatever you guys want. Till then, we'll catch you next time.